before the sun touched the windows. I gave my family something they had waited years to take, and by nightfall, I understood why silence had always been my safest choice. My name is Janet. I am 60 years old. I'm a Black American woman who learned early how to watch without being seen, how to smile while counting every quiet shift in a room. Greetings, my dear friends. Before I share this heart-warming story with you, I want to ask for a small favor. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps stories like this be heard. And drop a comment letting me know which state or city you're listening from. It would warm my heart to know how far my voice has traveled. Get comfortable. Happy listening. That morning, the house feels prepared in a way that unsettles me. The floors are polished more than usual, curtains drawn back as if expecting an audience. I ask everyone to gather. My children arrive first, then their partners, dressed sharper than necessary. A leather folder waits on the table. Inside are documents that place every decision, every account, every final word into their hands for one single day. I explain it calmly. One day of control. I say it is for rest. I say I want to see how things move without me. They nod. They thank me. They tell me I deserve peace. The pen moves quickly from hand to hand, too smoothly, almost rehearsed. As the hours pass, the house changes its tone. Phones buzz constantly. Doors close softly, but often. I hear my name spoken in past tense while I am still standing in the room. Meetings are scheduled without asking me. Staff receive instructions that do not sound like mine. By afternoon, chairs are shifted, so I sit at the end of my own table. By evening, I am spoken to, not with. Plates are served without my preference. Decisions are announced like headlines. I keep my voice even. I keep my posture straight. I keep the mask on. But I am watching everything, the smiles, the confidence, the ease with which they spend what they did not build. Then, as night settles and the house grows quiet, one careless remark slips out, meant for someone else. And in that moment, I realize this one day was never about helping me rest. It was about seeing how fast they could erase me. I do not react to the remark right away. I lower my eyes and continue eating as if I did not hear it, because that is how I have survived most of my life, by letting people believe their words have not reached me. The dining room feels different now, heavier. The chandelier hums softly above us, and every clink of silverware sounds deliberate. Someone laughs too loudly. Someone else checks their phone while I am still speaking. I notice how quickly comfort turns into ownership. After dinner, they do not wait for me to rise. Chairs scrape back. Plans are made over my head. I hear talk of restructuring, of efficiency, of what should have been done years ago. I walk slowly through the hallway, past doors that are suddenly closed to me, past rooms where my presence used to quiet conversations. In my study, the safe is open. Papers are spread across my desk in neat stacks, sorted by hands that do not tremble because the weight is not theirs. I ask a simple question. Who authorized this? The room goes still for half a second. Then my son answers without standing, without meeting my eyes. He says it is temporary. He says it is necessary. He says it is better this way. I nod, because nodding costs less than arguing. Later, I hear my daughter-in-law on the phone, her voice light, speaking about numbers she once whispered around me. She says, "We are finally free to move things around." She says I will understand in the morning. The staff avoids my gaze now. Instructions are being handed down with confidence I have never seen. When I return to my bedroom, my calendar has been cleared without my permission. Tomorrow is marked as review day. Not my words, not my handwriting. I sit on the edge of the bed and fold my hands, feeling the calm mask settle fully into place. They think I am resting. They think I am unaware. But as the house grows quiet and lights turn off one by one, I realize they are not waiting for the day to end. They are planning what happens if it never does I wake before dawn. Not because I slept well, but because my body remembers every moment when danger arrived quietly. The house is silent in a way that feels staged, too clean, too ordered. I step into the hallway and notice my door camera light is off. It is always on. Downstairs, voices travel through the kitchen, low and confident, as if they believe the walls now belong to them. I pause by the staircase and listen. They are discussing timelines, not hours, weeks. One voice says the old system was holding everyone back. Another says people will adjust once the transition is complete. My name comes up only once, followed by a short pause that tells me everything. I enter the room, and the conversation stops instantly. Smiles appear like switches flipped on command. Coffee is already poured, but not for me. I pour my own and take a seat they do not offer. My son lays out a plan on the counter, speaking as if I am a guest. He explains changes that will begin immediately: access revisions, signature updates, travel limits for my own protection. I thank him for explaining. The word protection hangs in the air, heavy and false. I excuse myself and walk toward my office, but the door does not open. The lock has been changed. I stand there longer than necessary, reading the message without words. When I turn back, my daughter avoids my eyes. Her husband clears his throat and says it is only until the day ends, just to keep things streamlined. I smile because smiling keeps me present. Inside, I am counting every step they have taken, every line they have crossed. I return to the living room and sit quietly while emails are drafted, calls are made, and my authority dissolves in real time. They believe the hardest part is over. They believe I have accepted this. What they do not know is that while they are busy locking doors, I am remembering every exit they forgot to guard by mid-morning. The house is fully awake, and so is the power they think they own. Cars arrive without informing me. A consultant I have never approved walks through my living room, glancing at walls as if measuring them for change. My son introduces him using first names only, cutting me out of the exchange with practiced ease. I sit on the sofa and listen while my life is summarized in bullet points: strengths, weaknesses, risks. When the word risk is said, the consultant looks at me for the first time, not with respect, but with assessment. I fold my hands and nod as if this is happening to someone else. A folder is passed around with labels I recognize and numbers I built from nothing. I ask a question about a particular account, one that no one should be able to touch without my direct approval. My son answers too quickly. He says it has been reclassified for efficiency. The room hums with approval. I stand and walk toward the window, watching the garden I designed bloom exactly as planned. Outside, everything grows according to care and patience. Inside, everything is being rushed. My daughter tells me I should sit down, that this much standing is not good for me. The concern in her voice arrives too late to feel real. I do as she asks, because compliance keeps them careless. A document slides across the table toward me, something they want acknowledged. Not signed, acknowledged. I read every word slowly, letting the silence stretch. It limits my access, my movement, my involvement, all under the language of care. I look up and say I understand. Relief spreads across their faces. That is when I know they have mistaken my quiet for consent. As the consultant packs up, he shakes my son's hand and congratulates him on the smooth transition. I watch the door close behind them and realize this was never a family decision. It was a rehearsal for removing me permanently. The afternoon stretches longer than it should, thick with certainty that does not belong to them yet. And I let it, because people reveal the most when they think the ending is already written. I move slowly through the house, not wandering, observing. My name has been removed from conversations entirely now. They speak freely in front of me, using phrases like legacy, management, and future alignment, as if those words soften the act of erasing someone who built everything they are standing on. I hear my son say we need to prepare for resistance, and when his wife asks from whom, he does not say my name, but he looks at me. That is when I understand the role they have assigned me. An obstacle, a delay, something to manage. I step into the study again, knowing the door will still be locked, and it is. But this time, no one rushes to explain, no apologies, only patience, the kind used when waiting out a storm. Staff passes me without greeting. One of them, new and unfamiliar, asks if I need assistance finding the guest bathroom. I thank him and keep walking. In the kitchen, I overhear plans being made for an evening meeting at the house. External partners, media advisors, a quiet announcement strategy. Someone says it would look cleaner if Janet stays upstairs. My hand tightens around the edge of the counter, but my face does not change. I excuse myself and return to my room, where my phone shows missed calls I was never told about, numbers I recognize, people who would not have spoken to anyone else. I sit on the bed and place the phone face down, because reacting now would warn them. Instead, I think about the clauses they forgot, the approvals they cannot bypass, the one call that does not go through the house lines. Downstairs, laughter rises, relaxed and confident. They believe the night will end in celebration. They believe I am tired. They believe I am contained. What they do not realize is that while they are planning how to present my absence, I am preparing to decide whether they deserve my return at all. As evening approaches, the house shifts again, not louder, but sharper, like a blade finally lifted from the table. I remain upstairs longer than usual, listening to footsteps measure distance, to doors open with confidence that was not there yesterday. From the landing, I watch them rehearse authority. My son stands straighter now. His voice carries without effort. He assigns tasks, corrects staff, interrupts without apology. My daughter sits beside him, nodding, adding details, speaking as if she has always been part of this role. Their partners circle close, offering suggestions that land easily, too easily, as if they have been waiting for permission to speak this way for years. I descend the stairs slowly, making no sound, and pause where they cannot see me. A conversation unfolds about optics, about how it will look if I resist. Someone suggests rest would be the best explanation. Another says stress can cloud judgment at my age. My age. The words settle in my chest, heavy and precise. When I step into the room, they stop talking, but not quickly enough. The silence is not respectful. It is tactical. I take my seat without comment. Tea is placed in front of me without asking how I take it. I thank the person anyway. My son clears his throat and explains the evening schedule, external calls, final confirmations, a dinner I am not expected to attend. He tells me this calmly, kindly, as if kindness makes exclusion acceptable. I nod and say I understand. Relief moves through the room again. They believe understanding means agreement. I excuse myself once more, saying I am tired. Upstairs, I close the door and sit in the chair by the window, watching the sky darken over a house that no longer feels like mine. I think about the call I have not made yet, the one that cannot be intercepted, the one person who never answers without reason. Downstairs, voices rise in confidence, glasses clink, plans lock into place. They think the day is almost over. They think control is secure. They think nightfall will seal this. What they do not know is that the most important decision of this day has not been spoken aloud yet, and I am the only one who can make it. Night arrives, dressed as certainty, and certainty is when people become careless. I remain upstairs until the house settles into its new rhythm, one that no longer waits for me. Through the floorboards, I hear laughter mixed with strategy, the soft confidence of people who believe the future has already signed itself. When I finally step into the hallway, my phone vibrates once. No name appears, only a short message asking if the day has reached its conclusion. I type a single word in response, not yet. I move toward the guest wing where conversations are still active, my steps measured, my expression unchanged. No one notices me at first. They are gathered around the long table, papers spread, glasses half full. Someone is talking about timelines again. Someone else mentions how smoothly everything went once resistance faded. I clear my throat gently. The room stills. Faces turn toward me, polite, guarded, almost amused. I thank them for their hard work today. I say it sounds like progress has been made. My son smiles, proud and relieved, and that smile tells me he believes I am finally stepping aside. I ask one question: have all final approvals been secured? He answers yes, without hesitation. I nod and say that is good. Very good. I excuse myself once more, and this time no one follows. In my room, I sit at the desk that still opens because they did not think to change that lock. I take out a small notebook I have kept hidden for years, not for memories, but for contingencies, names, numbers, conditions. I dial the number from memory. It rings twice. A voice answers that does not ask who I am. I say my name anyway. I say I need confirmation. The answer I receive is quiet, precise, and irreversible. I thank them and end the call. Downstairs, celebration grows louder. They are raising glasses now, toasting a future that excludes me. I stand, straighten my jacket, and look at my reflection, the mask still intact. They believe this night belongs to them. They believe the transfer is complete. What they do not know is that, with one call, made in silence, I have just decided how this day will truly be remembered. I return downstairs with the same measured pace I have carried all day, because power announces itself best when it does not hurry. The room is warmer now, filled with voices that no longer lower when I enter, because they believe courtesy is optional. Glasses are raised. A quiet celebration has begun. My son notices me last. He gestures toward an empty chair, not beside him, but across the table, a placement that confirms everything. I sit without comment. Someone mentions the press strategy again. Another speaks about leadership visibility starting tomorrow. I listen, calm, attentive, the way I was taught when men twice my age spoke over me, and assumed I was grateful just to be present. When there is a pause, I thank them for organizing such a productive day. The room relaxes. Compliments are exchanged. I let them finish. Then I ask for the floor, not loudly, not formally, just enough to be heard. I say there is one clarification needed before the day officially ends. My son nods, indulgent, as if allowing a child a final word. I ask him to confirm, out loud, that all authority transfers made today were executed under the temporary provision. He hesitates for half a second, then confirms. I thank him again. I explain, gently, that temporary authority expires at midnight, not by courtesy, but by condition. A few faces shift. I continue speaking, calm and even, explaining that one approval cannot be reassigned, cannot be delegated, cannot be bypassed, no matter how many documents change hands. I do not name it yet. I let the silence work. Someone clears their throat. Someone else checks their phone. I say I made one call tonight, as permitted under that condition. My daughter looks at me now, truly looks, for the first time all day. I stand and smooth my jacket. I tell them the call was not to reverse what they did. It was to confirm what will happen next. The room has gone completely still. No glasses move. No one speaks. They are waiting for reassurance, for correction, for mercy. I look around the table and realize this is the moment they expected never to come. Because by the time midnight arrives, one decision will take effect that none of them prepared for, and there will be no signatures left to stop it. The night deepens, and the house hums with false accomplishment, unaware that every step taken today has been quietly catalogued in my mind. I move through the rooms slowly, listening to conversations that spill over my head as if I am a shadow, invisible and irrelevant. My son is confident now, directing staff and partners, assuming the temporary control has made him untouchable. My daughter-in-law checks numbers again, her tone light, dismissing complications they once would have asked me to resolve. I watch them laugh over a detail I know to be flawed, a miscalculation I left in plain sight, knowing that it will only reveal their overconfidence. When I finally sit at the head of the table for the first time since the morning, the room freezes. My presence is sudden, yet silent. No one challenges it, because their minds have been trained to see me as passive. I let the pause linger, feeling the weight of decades of knowledge and experience pressing lightly on my shoulders, more powerful than any document they could have drafted. I ask them casually how the revised schedules are holding up, letting my gaze meet each of theirs, one by one, noticing microexpressions, hesitation, relief, pride, all interwoven with the illusion of control. My son smiles and explains, but I stop him mid-sentence. I point out the discrepancy, the one detail he overlooked, and watch as certainty falters in real time. Staff glance nervously. Partners exchange subtle cues. My daughter-in-law's lips tighten, and suddenly, the ease they wore all day slips like a fragile mask. I speak again, calm, deliberate, outlining the consequence of that single error, a step they cannot undo. Silence thickens. Laughter has gone. Phones are muted. They had assumed they had the narrative, the day, the house. And yet, in the quiet, they now see that temporary control is nothing without knowledge, and that one small, precise correction can change everything, and they do not yet know how far I am willing to take it. The house is quiet now, almost reverent, as if it senses the shift that has begun, but cannot yet name it. I move through the rooms with the kind of patience that has been honed over decades, noticing everything, the angle of the light on the walls, the slight tension in my son's shoulders, the way my daughter-in-law's hands fidget with a napkin that should have been ignored. They believe the day has ended with celebration, that confidence now equals control. I step into the study and notice a stack of reports left open, numbers that are incomplete, decisions that are unchecked. My presence alone sends a ripple across the room. I pick up a sheet, glance over it, and leave a single note in the margin, so subtle it could be missed by anyone not trained to see. I walk back to the living room and take my seat again, smiling softly, letting them bask in the illusion that the day is theirs. They speak as if I have acquiesced completely, planning the next steps, discussing external meetings, and projecting outcomes that exclude me entirely. I nod at intervals, careful not to reveal the storm behind my calm. A server walks by with tea and looks at me, unsure whether to offer a refill, hesitant because the day has taught them the rules have changed. My son leans forward, full of pride, recounting everything that was accomplished, and I allow him to continue, letting every boast land exactly where it should, in ears tuned to listen for excess. The house is alive with confidence, and yet I feel the quiet surge of authority that comes from observing, from understanding the cracks they cannot yet see, from knowing that control is not in documents or signatures, but in knowledge and timing. By the time night grows darker, the first misstep has already been recorded in my mind. A single, calculated adjustment will make everything unravel, and when it does, they will realize that giving me one day of apparent control was the greatest mistake they ever made, though they do not yet know it. By the time midnight approaches, the house carries the quiet confidence of those who believe they have succeeded, unaware that every move they made has been catalogued, measured, and stored for the moment it will matter most. I walk slowly through the living room, the soft hum of air conditioning and distant traffic underscoring the stillness that belongs only to me now. My children sit across from each other, papers in front of them, phones silenced, thinking the final approvals have sealed their day. My daughter-in-law smiles faintly, believing the transition has gone exactly as planned, her fingers tracing lines on a document that she assumes gives her power. My son leans back in his chair, confident, unaware that confidence is fragile when the foundation is unseen. I place my hand lightly on the table, not demanding attention, simply existing as a quiet force, and I see them notice, though they cannot understand why their calm wavers. I ask a casual question about a particular account, one that seems insignificant in their excitement, and watch the subtle reactions, a flicker of doubt in his eyes, a pause in her fingers. They believe my inquiry is politeness, curiosity, nothing more. I let it linger, letting their assumptions stretch thin like brittle glass. I rise slowly and walk toward the study, where documents await untouched, and retrieve one file I know they overlooked entirely. I carry it back, placing it before them, letting the weight of its existence land without comment. I sit again, mask intact, and speak softly about minor discrepancies that, when corrected, will change the narrative of the day completely. Silence falls, heavy and tense. Staff glance nervously at each other, unsure who is in command. The night stretches longer, the air thick with unspoken realization, and I know that by tomorrow, the consequences of one day's so-called control will echo far beyond the walls of this house. And yet, they do not realize that even now, while they think the day is ending, one final move remains in my hands, one final revelation that will show them the true cost of underestimating me. The clock ticks past midnight, yet the house still hums with the illusion of order, the way a stage remains bright long after the actors have left. I move quietly through the rooms, observing the subtle shifts in posture, the small hesitations that betray their overconfidence. My son leans back, speaking too freely to staff, who now look to him for guidance rather than me. And my daughter-in-law arranges documents with the ease of someone who believes the rules have changed permanently. I pause at the threshold of the study and notice the one file they missed, the single document that contains the clause no one else remembers exists, the clause that defines control itself. I pick it up and read through it slowly, letting the words sink in, savoring the quiet power of knowledge they do not possess. Downstairs, laughter rises, oblivious to the subtle cracks forming beneath their confident veneer. I descend slowly, the soft click of my heels on the floor, a metronome to their misplaced certainty. I sit at the head of the table once more, not as a guest, but as the only person who understands that temporary control is nothing without awareness. I let my gaze linger on each of them, noting the flicker of unease, the micro-expression of doubt that I have cultivated all day, without revealing a single hint of anger. I speak softly about minor oversights, the kind they would have dismissed as irrelevant, and watch as those small words ripple across the room, altering posture, tone, and certainty. My son's voice falters, just enough to betray the illusion. My daughter-in-law's hand trembles on the edge of the table. I remain calm, patient, knowing that true authority is measured not by documents signed or decisions taken, but by the recognition of invisible power. As the night stretches, I realize they are celebrating nothing more than a borrowed day of confidence, unaware that every movement, every word, every assumption has been recorded in a way that will allow me to reshape the entire narrative by morning. And they do not yet know that the moment I choose to act, the control they flaunted so boldly will crumble in silence. Morning begins to press against the windows, pale and patient, and with it comes a restlessness they cannot hide. The celebration of the night before has thinned into quiet calculation. Coffee is poured again, but no one drinks it with ease. Voices are lower now, measured, careful. They feel it. The shift they cannot explain. I sit in my usual chair, hands folded, posture relaxed, watching them pretend this is just another morning. My son checks his phone too often. My daughter-in-law rereads the same page without turning it. I say nothing at first. Silence, when chosen, becomes instruction. Finally, I speak, asking if the day of full control was productive. They answer quickly, almost eagerly, listing progress. I let them finish. Then I ask a second question, softer, slower. Did anyone review the conditional authority appendix? The room freezes. My son looks at the papers in front of him, flipping through them with a sudden urgency that confirms the truth before words do. My daughter-in-law's expression tightens, calculation replacing confidence. I explain calmly that temporary control was never absolute. It was layered, conditional, designed to test judgment, restraint, and respect. I remind them that every major decision requires alignment with a safeguard clause written years ago. After I learned what ambition looks like when it forgets loyalty, they try to speak over me, but I continue, voice steady, unraised. I tell them that several actions taken yesterday triggered that clause, that notifications were sent automatically, that confirmations were received. I do not say from whom yet. Staff stands still now, unsure who to look at. The house feels smaller, heavier, like walls closing in. I rise slowly, gathering the papers they thought defined the future, and place them neatly back into the folder. I tell them the day is not over yet. It is simply revealing itself, because before they regain anything they believe they earned, one final meeting will take place today, and the people attending it were never meant to be on their side. The morning sun has stretched fully across the marble floors, but the warmth does nothing to ease the tension that has settled over the house. I walk through the rooms with measured steps, noticing how my presence has already changed the rhythm of conversation. My son pauses mid-sentence when I enter the study. My daughter-in-law's hands hover over the documents she once handled with such certainty. They believe control is theirs because the papers are in their hands, the signatures visible, the schedules drafted. They do not see the invisible threads that have always determined how things truly move. I sit in the living room, near the window where light falls softly, and observe each detail, the way the chairs are slightly misaligned, the way their smiles falter when they believe no one is watching. I speak carefully, asking about minor adjustments, trivial to them, critical to me. Each answer exposes more assumptions. Each misstep confirms that their confidence is built on sand. Staff moves quietly, uncertain who to follow, aware only that the tide has shifted. I rise slowly and walk toward the central desk, fingers grazing the edge as if marking territory, not needing to announce it. I pull out a single folder, long forgotten in the shuffle of daily life, and place it before them. The room goes silent, the kind of silence that sharpens ears and widens eyes. I let them look, let them read, let them realize, without words yet spoken, that one day of control does not grant mastery. Then I speak, voice calm, even, explaining that several actions taken under yesterday's pretense triggered clauses they never accounted for, clauses that now require immediate alignment. My son shifts in his seat, lips pressed, jaw tight. My daughter-in-law tries to regain composure, but the edge has been taken from her confidence. I tell them the house is no longer theirs to manage as they please. I remind them gently that authority has always had boundaries, and boundaries are meant to be respected. As I step back, mask intact, I see the first real flicker of fear cross their faces. They thought this day would prove them capable. Instead, it has only shown me how quickly they reveal themselves when given freedom, and they do not yet understand how I plan to use that revelation before the sun sets again. By late afternoon, the house no longer feels like a place of celebration or confidence. It feels like a courtroom without a judge, everyone waiting for a verdict that has not been spoken yet. I sit at the long table while they stand or pace, unable to settle, pretending they are simply busy. My son's voice carries less certainty now. My daughter-in-law speaks carefully, choosing words as if each one might cost her something. I ask for a full review of the decisions made during their one day of control, not as a demand, as a request. They comply quickly, almost eagerly, laying out actions and justifications that sound weaker when spoken aloud. I listen without interruption, my face unreadable, my posture relaxed. I take notes, not because I need them, but because the act itself changes the air in the room. When they finish, I thank them. Then I begin. I go through the list slowly, pointing out where authority was exceeded, where tone replaced judgment, where respect was abandoned. I remind them that leadership is revealed not in speed, but in restraint. Each correction lands quietly, but precisely. Staff stands frozen, watching the balance tilt. My son tries to explain his intentions. I stop him gently. Intention does not erase consequence. I explain that trust is not measured by blood, but by behavior when power is offered without supervision. The room grows still. My daughter-in-law looks down, her confidence reduced to calculation. I close the folder and tell them there will be adjustments. Oversight will return. Access will change. Privileges will be reviewed. I do not raise my voice. I do not accuse. I simply state facts. As I stand, the weight of the moment presses on them in a way anger never could. They thought one day would prove they were ready. Instead, it has confirmed what I already feared. And as I walk toward the door, I tell them there is still one matter left to address before this family moves forward. And it is the one they hoped I would never bring up. Evening descends, slowly, stretching shadows across the rooms that have carried tension since morning. And I feel the weight of every glance, every misstep, every assumption they made under the guise of control. I walk quietly through the hallway, noticing how my son's hands fidget with his watch, how my daughter-in-law rearranges papers that should have been left untouched. They believe this day is coming to close, that authority will return to normal, that they can exhale and pretend mastery has been achieved. I enter the living room where they gather once more, voices low, smiles forced, thinking they have weathered the storm. I sit, not commanding attention, but commanding presence. I allow a moment of pause, letting the air thicken with unspoken realization. Then I begin to speak, calm and deliberate, revisiting yesterday's decisions with precision. I ask about transfers made without consultation, about approvals signed without awareness, about steps taken that they believed were unnoticed. Each question lands like a stone dropped into still water, rippling across the room. My son's confidence wavers, my daughter-in-law's lips press tightly. Staff watches silently, understanding that the day has shifted once again. I do not shout. I do not accuse. I simply lay bare the consequences that follow when rules are ignored, when authority is assumed without respect. Their faces tighten as they realize the boundaries they thought removed are still very much in place. I rise slowly, gathering documents, and explain that one last measure must be addressed before control can even be considered stable again. I tell them it will take attention, compliance, and transparency, qualities they have yet to demonstrate fully. The room grows heavy with anticipation, eyes tracking every subtle movement I make. I know they feel the tension, but they do not yet know the depth of what I am prepared to enforce. And as the final light dims in the hallway, I realize that by the end of tonight, the truth of their ambition will no longer be hidden behind smiles or whispered plans, and the revelation I have planned will change everything they thought they owned. Night deepens, and the house is alive with hushed conversations, the kind that move cautiously when they believe no one is watching. I move through the hallways silently, my presence unnoticed, but every step I take leaves a weight they cannot measure. My son and daughter-in-law are seated together at the dining table, reviewing the day's events, their faces tight with the false ease they have been maintaining since dawn. Papers lie scattered between them, numbers recalculated, plans redrawn, all under the belief that authority has finally shifted in their favor. I pause at the doorway, listening, watching how their gestures betray confidence that is, in truth, brittle. Their partners whisper from the corner, assuming they are unseen, free to comment. I remain still, letting the tension grow naturally, letting their own assumptions pull them into error. I speak softly, so quietly it could be mistaken for a sigh, asking about the approval process for one account they believed they controlled fully. Their heads snap up. My son attempts to answer with certainty, but I interrupt, detailing clause after clause they overlooked, reminding them of rules written long before this day began, rules that dictate authority beyond appearances. I watch as color drains from their faces, as micro-expressions of panic flicker and vanish too quickly to mask. The staff, now fully aware of the shift, stand frozen, uncertain who truly governs the evening. I continue, voice calm, dissecting each action with precision, allowing them to see how every misstep compounds into consequence. A door creaks in the distance, unnoticed by them, but I hear it as sharply as a bell. I rise and gather the papers, placing them back in perfect order, each movement deliberate, each gesture signaling control they cannot yet comprehend. As I step toward the window, the night air brushing softly against the panes, I realize they think this day will end with relief and pride. They do not know that by the time darkness fully settles, one revelation, one carefully timed confrontation, will lay bare everything they have tried to hide from me, and it will leave them powerless, exposed, and questioning. Who truly holds the reins in this family? The house feels smaller now, compressed by tension, as if the walls themselves are leaning in to witness the unraveling of a day that was meant to be theirs. I move deliberately through the rooms, noting every detail. A chair slightly askew, a pen left uncapped, a document folded the wrong way, tiny cracks that reveal the overconfidence of those who believe they command. My son sits at the table, shoulders tight, reviewing schedules, double-checking decisions, as if anticipating a mistake he does not yet see. My daughter-in-law hovers near him, her fingers tapping lightly on the papers, betraying the anxiety she hides behind calm eyes. Their partners whisper from corners, underestimating the reach of observation, unaware that the slightest inflection, the smallest hesitation, has been recorded in memory for later use. I pause in the doorway, mask intact, calm on the surface, feeling the pulse of the house shift under my gaze. I ask about one particular transaction, a minor adjustment, trivial to them, critical in the chain of authority. My son begins an explanation, confident at first, but I stop him gently, outlining how each step taken without full compliance triggers clauses they believed irrelevant. Eyes widen, shoulders tense, breaths quicken, and the room seems to contract further, as if the air itself is aware of the power that has returned quietly, invisibly, to me. Staff stands motionless, aware that the balance has shifted, but unsure how far it will tip. I pick up a file left open on the counter, glancing at the numbers that tell a story of overreach, and place it back without comment, letting its existence speak louder than words. I rise, walking slowly toward the window, observing their reactions without needing to intervene. Every movement, every word withheld, amplifies the impact, and I know that by the time midnight approaches, their confidence will be shattered, not by confrontation, but by the realization that this day, meant to test me, has revealed who they truly are, and that revelation alone will change the course of this family. Forever, the night air has settled over the house, heavy and still, carrying the tension of a day that has stretched far beyond anyone's expectations. I remain in the hall, listening to faint murmurs, observing subtle movements that speak louder than words. My son paces near the study, phone in hand, rechecking numbers, rereading messages, as if double confirmation could shield him from the consequences he has ignored. My daughter-in-law moves between rooms, checking documents, adjusting schedules, speaking softly to partners who nod, but do not grasp the gravity of what has happened. They believe their temporary control was seamless, flawless, a demonstration of competence. They do not see the tiny fractures forming under every decision, the missteps I allowed to occur so that the truth would be revealed. I step quietly into the living room, the soft click of my heels on the floor, marking the return of authority they thought they could bypass. I sit deliberately, calm, letting silence speak as loudly as any rebuke. I pick up a report, reviewing it with slow precision, allowing every glance and hesitation from them to register. My son tries to speak, but I pause him with a look, one measured, unyielding. I speak softly but firmly, pointing out oversights they did not notice, errors that, though minor, expose their assumptions, their ambition, and their lack of foresight. Staff watches silently, aware that the true balance of power is not in documents or signatures, but in the knowledge that only one person in this house understands the full scope of what is at stake. I stand, gathering the scattered files, and place them neatly before them, each movement deliberate, controlled, commanding. I tell them that tonight will end not with celebration, but with understanding, a revelation that cannot be reversed. Their eyes widen, expressions faltering, as they realize that the day they thought would prove them capable has only revealed their fragility. And as I step back, mask intact, a calm certainty fills me, knowing that the final act of this day, the reckoning they never anticipated, is about to unfold, and it will leave no illusion of control unshattered. The house is silent now, heavy with anticipation, every corner holding the echoes of a day that began with false confidence and overreaching ambition. I walk slowly through the rooms, letting my eyes linger on the faces of my children, their partners, the staff, all of them unaware of the full weight of what has transpired. My son sits stiffly at the table, fingers drumming lightly, trying to mask the unease that has settled into his shoulders. My daughter-in-law fidgets with a document, her earlier composure replaced with calculation, and yet she cannot hide the flicker of fear that passes across her expression. I step into the living room, mask intact, my voice calm and precise, as I recount the sequence of actions taken under the guise of temporary control. I remind them gently, yet unmistakably, of every clause, every safeguard, every measure that ensures authority is never assumed without accountability. Each word lands with weight, each pause a calculated strike, and the room goes still, tension thick and undeniable. Staff stands frozen, realizing that the day's experiment has ended not with their triumph, but with the revelation of their overconfidence. I explain the consequences of every misstep, not with anger, but with clarity, showing that knowledge and foresight outweigh boldness and haste. I gather the documents, placing them neatly into the folder where they belong, a symbol of order restored, control reasserted. I look at my son and daughter-in-law, their faces pale in the dim light, and I tell them that authority is earned, trust is fragile, and respect is never optional. The day has tested them, exposed their true natures, and laid bare ambitions that were once hidden behind smiles and pretense. I walk toward the window, watching the night deepen over the house I built, knowing the day's lessons will linger far longer than any celebration could. I return to the room one last time, my voice soft, inviting reflection, and I say, before we close this chapter, let us remember that real power is measured not in what you take, but in what you are trusted to hold. I pause, letting the weight settle, and as I step back, the house finally quiets, the final revelation complete, leaving them to face the truth of the day and the certainty that from this moment on, nothing will be the same. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps stories like this be heard. Thank you for listening.